Every Sith duel in Star Wars is secretly a psychological battlefield where blades are secondary and ego is the real weapon. Across 12 confrontations, these fights reshape the entire galaxy through arrogance, manipulation, and raw hatred. Today I'm breaking down every single one, starting with the aristocrat who proved raw power means absolutely nothing. Count Dooku versus Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Geonosis. Count Dooku is the greatest living master of Form 2, Makashi, and that sentence alone should terrify you. Makashi is a dueling style optimized for precise blade work and probing tempo. It manipulates opponents psychologically, treating combat like a conversation where Dooku decides who speaks and when. The man fights like a fencer who already knows the match is over before it starts, which at Geonosis in 22 BBY it basically was. Anakin charges in with that legendary Skywalker aggression and Dooku dismantles him. Unceremoniously, slices off his right arm above the elbow. Just like that, the Chosen One gets his first cybernetic limb, symbolically beginning his transformation into a part machine being. All that raw power, zero refinement. Dooku didn't even blink. But here's where it gets complicated. Right before the blades come out, Dooku straight up tells Obi-Wan that a Sith Lord controls the Senate. The truth of Sidious's manipulation served on a silver platter. Obi-Wan dismisses it completely. The Jedi's political blindness is so total that a Sith Lord literally confesses and they go, nah, lying. Anakin's brutal defeat foreshadows everything. The shame, the vulnerability, the realization that power without control is worthless. These are emotional wounds Palpatine will later exploit with surgical precision. But if you think one refined aristocrat was bad, wait until you meet the Zabrak who turned dueling into pure rage. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Maul, Tatooine. This is the duel that broke the galaxy. Not because of the choreography, not because of the music, but because of what it permanently broke inside the Jedi Order. Specifically, Qui-Gon Jinn's chest cavity. Here's the thing. The fight in the Theed Power Complex isn't just two Jedi versus a Sith in face paint. It is the single most consequential lightsaber duel in Star Wars history, and nobody on screen realizes it. Darth Maul shows up wielding a double-bladed saber and Form 7 Juyo, the most aggressive, emotionally unhinged lightsaber form in existence. For 1,000 years, the Sith have been hiding in the shadows. Maul is their coming-out party, and he fights like it. Pure acrobatic brutality, spinning and flipping, overwhelming both Jedi at once to force them apart, which, you know, works perfectly. Then comes the red ray shield corridor. Qui-Gon and Maul get locked together in that narrow space, one-on-one, while Obi-Wan is trapped behind the barrier watching. Maul impales Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan snaps, attacks in a blind rage, gets kicked into a reactor shaft, and hangs from a nozzle. Maul could finish him. Instead, he paces. He sparks his blade. He toys with his prey. That overconfidence creates the opening for Obi-Wan to leap up, grab Qui-Gon's saber, and bisect Maul so thoroughly he falls down a bottomless pit, which is, not ideal for maintaining a Sith apprentice roster. But here's where it gets dark. With Qui-Gon dead, Obi-Wan inherits Anakin Skywalker. He's a newly minted knight, emotionally wrecked, and 0% prepared to mentor the most powerful Force-sensitive in galactic history. If Qui-Gon had lived, his compassionate mentorship might have actually guided Anakin safely. Instead, the galaxy's fate gets handed to a traumatized 25-year-old, and the slow avalanche toward catastrophe begins. But if you think one, death, rerouting a prophecy is bad, wait until you see what happens when the Sith Master himself steps into the ring. The most powerful Jedi to ever live walked into the Senate chamber to stop the most powerful Sith and lost. But here's the thing. That loss wasn't a failure. It was the smartest decision Yoda ever made. Yoda versus Darth Sidious. Innings. BBY. The Republic is literally collapsing around them as Yoda confronts Darth Sidious in the very heart of galactic democracy. Sidious launches into vicious Form 7 acrobatics, cackling like a man who just won the lottery, which legally speaking he basically had. He hurls entire Senate pods like artillery shells, turning the symbol of representative government into a weapon of authoritarian spectacle. Democracy isn't just dying here, it's being used as ammunition. Yoda counters with Ataru agility, bouncing off podiums and absorbing Sidious's Force lightning barehanded, redirecting it right back at him. For a moment, it looks like a genuine stalemate, but when that final explosive blast of lightning sends Yoda tumbling to the floor, the truth becomes clear. He cannot win this. Not today. So Yoda runs, and that is not cowardice. It is strategic humility. The old guard cannot reverse the tide through raw power alone. The prequel Jedi era is over, and no single climactic master versus master showdown will undo systemic corruption. Victory will require something the old order never understood: compassion and familial love, not just a bigger laser sword. Yoda trusts the Force to raise up new hope. But if you think Yoda's retreat was sobering, wait until you see the duel where Sidious nearly met his match. Mace Windu vs Darth Sidious. This is the duel that broke the galaxy. In 19 BBY, Mace Windu and 3 Jedi Masters confront Chancellor Palpatine, and Palpatine erupts from his chair like a dark side grenade. He dispatches Masters Fisto, Teen, and Kohler in about 6 seconds of explosive Form 7 fury, rest in peace gentlemen, leaving only Mace standing. What follows is the most debated fight in Star Wars history. Mace is the primary master of Vapad, a wildly controversial Form 7 variant that literally channels an opponent's dark side energy back at them. Add in Mace's Shatterpoint perception, which lets him see critical weaknesses in people and events, and he appears to genuinely overpower Sidious. He disarms him, deflects his lightning back to burn and deform his face, and has him cornered. But here's where it gets complicated. Did Palpatine actually lose, or did he strategically feign weakness to secure Anakin's fall? Here's the thing. Palpatine himself points to Mace's lack of empathy as a Shatterpoint he exploits. Mace's rigid, cold insistence on executing Palpatine pushes Anakin exactly where Sidious needs him. When Anakin severs Mace's arm, allowing Sidious to blast him out the window, the Jedi's most formidable warrior is killed by the boy he mistrusted, not the Sith Lord he defeated. The Republic dies, the Empire rises, and Order 66 annihilates the Jedi, all because Mace couldn't find the Shatterpoint in himself. But if you think Sidious was ruthless to Anakin, wait until you see what he did to his own former apprentice. Darth Sidious versus Maul and Savage Opress. In 19 BBY, Darth Maul does what no former Sith apprentice should ever attempt. He builds his own empire. After seizing control of Mandalore through a criminal syndicate called the Shadow Collective, Maul genuinely believes he's escaped Sidious's reach. He hasn't. The moment Sidious learns that his old apprentice is playing warlord on a galactic scale, he travels to Mandalore personally to remind Maul of a very simple rule. There are only 2 Sith at a time, and Maul is no longer one of them. What follows is one of the most one-sided beatdowns in Star Wars. Sidious dual-wields crimson sabers in a spinning acrobatic offense that isolates Maul and Savage Opress one at a time, seamlessly integrating levitation, force pushes, and chokes into his blade work like he's conducting an orchestra of violence. Savage, who is genuinely powerful and genuinely cares for his brother, charges in to protect Maul. Sidious kills him with a casual flourish, running him through and leaving him to die in Maul's arms. Then he turns his full attention to Maul, disarms him, and subjects him to prolonged force torture while cackling about how he has plans for him, which is somehow worse than just killing him outright. The fight is a ritual enforcement of the rule of 2, but it's also a family tragedy of a different flavor than the Skywalkers. Savage dies protecting someone who cared about him, while Sidious views both brothers as expendable assets he can discard or repurpose whenever convenient. Maul's attempt to build an independent Sith-aligned empire is crushed before it can threaten the Clone Wars, and he's reduced from former apprentice to pawn. The duel showcases Sidious as not merely a schemer, but a frontline combatant capable of dismantling 2 of the franchise's most formidable dark side warriors by himself. And it's a stark reminder that no matter how far Maul climbs, he will always be outmatched by the man who shaped him. But if you think watching a Sith Lord torture his former apprentice is disturbing, wait until you see what happens when a Jedi faces the student she once trained as a Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, versus Darth Vader, Malachor. This duel is unresolved attachment, and it hurts to watch. Deep inside the Malachor Sith Temple, Ahsoka, Kanan, and Ezra are exploring when Vader shows up. As the temple collapses, Ahsoka tells the others to run. She's staying because she just figured out the monster in the black armor is Anakin Skywalker, and she refuses to abandon him again. Ahsoka already walked away from the Jedi Order after they falsely accused her of treason. That departure broke something between her and Anakin, and she's carried the guilt ever since. Now face to face with what he's become, she insists, I won't leave you. Vader twists their shared history into fuel for hatred. To him, she's just another Jedi who failed him. To her, he's still her mentor, buried somewhere under the armor. The fight is brutal. Vader uses deliberate, crushing strikes. He's a walking tank, corralling Ahsoka where her mobility becomes useless, but she fights with twin white lightsabers, darting in and out of his reach, targeting the joints in his armor. She knows exactly how he used to fight before Mustafar, giving her openings most opponents never find. She manages to leap behind him and slash his helmet, cracking it open. For a second, you see Anakin's scarred face and hear his real voice bleeding through the vocoder. He's still in there, drowning. But here's where it gets dark. Vader recovers almost immediately. The crack doesn't redeem him, it enrages him. He doubles down because acknowledging Anakin means acknowledging unbearable pain. He forces her toward a collapsing chasm. Ahsoka pushes Ezra to safety, but chooses to stay and fight. As the structure seals, Vader limps away, barely alive, and Ahsoka disappears into the ruins. Unlike most duels, this doesn't end in a body count. It ends in unresolved grief and the crushing knowledge that some people can't be saved. At least Ahsoka tried. But if you think one ghost from Anakin's past refusing to give up is devastating, wait until you hear about the final confrontation between two men who hated each other for decades, ending in 3 seconds on a desert planet. Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon. Jin and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul had one of the longest, most obsessive rivalries in Star Wars history. It started on Naboo when Maul killed Qui-Gon Jinn, continued through the Clone Wars, and it finally ended on Tatooine in the middle of the desert. Around 2 BBY, decades after their last encounter, Maul tracked Obi-Wan across the galaxy with one goal: kill the man who ruined his life. When he finally found him guarding the Lars homestead, he realized Kenobi was protecting someone. And the moment Maul threatened the boy, Obi-Wan drew his blade. The duel lasted 3 seconds. Maul ignited his double-bladed saber and dropped into the same stance he used on Naboo, one-handed, blade stretched to the side, trying to relive his greatest victory. Obi-Wan cycled through 3 different guards and moments: his familiar prequel stance, a classical pose associated with Qui-Gon, and finally a calm, centered position that radiated complete focus. A visual summary of his entire life, from impetuous Padawan to serene guardian. When the clash came, Maul tried the exact same move he used to kill Qui-Gon, a feint followed by a hilt strike to stagger Obi-Wan before the killing blow. Obi-Wan had studied that moment for decades. He anticipated it, countered in one fluid motion, and bisected Maul through the torso in a single strike. Maul collapsed into Obi-Wan's arms, dying. He asked if the one Kenobi was protecting was the chosen one. When Obi-Wan confirmed it, Maul whispered, "He will avenge us. Not avenge me. Avenge us." In his final breath, Maul saw them both as victims of Sidious, broken men trapped in a cycle neither chose. Obi-Wan held him gently as he died, no longer seeing the monster who murdered his master, but a man who never escaped the Sith's abuse. A lifetime of hatred, condensed into 3 seconds of blade contact, ending with shared acknowledgement of pain. Maul spent decades hunting revenge, and the only peace he found was in the arms of the man he hated most. But if you think one final duel between old enemies is tragic, the next one will break you in a completely different way. Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan Kenobi, Death Star. Obi-Wan and Vader rematch aboard the Death Star in 0 BBY, 19 years after Mustafar, and this is ritual farewell encoded in blade contact. Every strike carries the weight of 2 decades spent haunted by the same lava bank. This is not a fight to win, this is closure in motion. The duel itself is slower, more deliberate. Vader advances with heavy, implacable strikes, using his mechanical strength to press Kenobi backward. His movements are patient, like a man who has waited nearly 2 decades for this exact moment and refuses to rush it. Obi-Wan responds with defensive Sorosu parries, never committing to a killing blow because he's buying time for Luke and the others to escape. That's the entire tactical objective. But here's the thing. Obi-Wan doesn't just lose this duel, he chooses to end it. At the moment Luke watches, Obi-Wan lowers his guard, lifts his eyes toward the boy, and allows Vader to cut him down. He disappears into the Force, leaving only robes and a lightsaber behind. No body, no scream, just a serene exit that Vader, for all his power, cannot comprehend. For Luke, this is his first deep encounter with loss. Watching his mentor fall, powerless to intervene, sears into him a hatred of the Empire and a determination to fight back. He doesn't understand why Obi-Wan gave up, He won't understand for years. All he knows is that the old man who saved him is gone and Vader killed him. Here's where it gets weird. Vader's victory is completely hollow. Killing Obi-Wan doesn't erase Mustafar. It only makes Obi-Wan more powerful. As a Force spirit, Kenobi gains the ability to guide Luke at crucial moments, like the Death Star trench run, where his disembodied voice tells Luke to trust the Force. Vader thinks he's won. He's actually just handed the rebellion a ghost mentor who can't be killed twice, and that's the real genius of Obi-Wan's sacrifice. He turns his death into a weapon. Vader can't grasp that. He's trapped in a suit, in pain, in rage, in a need to dominate. Obi-Wan is free. Vader just killed a man who was already gone. If you think watching your mentor die in front of you is traumatic, wait until you find out your enemy is your father and you have to fight him twice before he finally turns back to the light. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. Bespin. Luke Skywalker is either the bravest kid in the galaxy or the dumbest. He abandons his training on Dagobah, ignores Yoda and Obi-Wan's warnings, and flies straight into Vader's trap on Cloud City. The Sith Lord wants to turn him or break him, and break him is exactly what happens. Here's the thing. This isn't a duel. It's a lesson. Vader toys with Luke from the start, deflecting strikes one-handed while casually hurling debris with the Force. He treats the whole encounter like a sparring session, parrying Luke's swings with bored efficiency that says I've already won this. But when Luke lands a glancing blow on Vader's shoulder, the Sith Lord stops playing. He escalates, driving Luke back through narrow corridors, battering him with overwhelming strength until the kid is desperate and outmatched. Then comes the hand. Vader severs Luke's right hand in one clean cut, the mechanical grip and lightsaber tumbling into the abyss. It's the exact same injury Anakin suffered on Geonosis when Dooku cut off his arm, a generational repetition of trauma that shows the Skywalker family is cursed to lose pieces of themselves over and over. But here's where it gets worse. Standing over Luke, who's clinging to a gantry in agony, Vader delivers the revelation that shatters everything. No, I am your father. Luke built his entire identity around avenging his father, a noble Jedi supposedly murdered by Vader. Learning the villain he hates is the parent he longed to know creates unbearable cognitive dissonance. The war isn't just political anymore. It's existentially horrifying. Vader offers him a choice. Join me and rule the galaxy as father and son, or die. Luke's response is to let go and fall into the abyss. He would rather risk death than let the dark side define him. He doesn't make this decision calmly. He makes it an emotional collapse, but it's still a refusal to submit. Vader loses him not because Luke defeats him, but because Luke chooses the fall over corruption. This duel doesn't just humble Luke, it educates him in the brutal reality that his conflict is older, darker, and more personal than he ever imagined. At least Luke survives to process the trauma. The next time he faces Vader, he'll understand that the war isn't won by killing his father. It's won by refusing to become him. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader. Mustafar. The Mustafar duel is the fratricidal inferno that sets the galaxy on fire. Hours after Anakin massacres the Jedi Temple and slaughters the Separatist Council, Obi-Wan arrives expecting to reason with his former Padawan. Instead, he finds a man who has fully embraced the Sith, convinced the Jedi are traitors, and that burning children alive was somehow necessary. When Anakin declares, "If you're not with me, then you're my enemy," the line isn't drawn in the sand. It's carved into lava. Anakin channels dark side rage into a relentless offensive that borders on uncontrolled fury. His combat style fuses raw power with acrobatic sequences, but it's driven by emotion rather than discipline. He's faster, stronger, and angrier than he's ever been. The problem is that anger narrows your options. You stop thinking tactically and start thinking about dominance, which is exactly what Obi-Wan is counting on. Obi-Wan leans into Sorasu's defensive discipline, weathering the assault with tight blade work and minimal motion. He's not trying to overpower Anakin. He's waiting for the decisive opening, the moment when fury overextends into hubris. The fight spills across landing platforms and lava flows, and the entire time Obi-Wan is controlling angles and refusing to give Anakin the emotional satisfaction of a reckless counter. When Obi-Wan finally maneuvers to higher ground and warns Anakin not to try it, he's offering one last chance to retreat. Anakin, convinced he can overpower physics with rage, leaps anyway. Obi-Wan's strike is precise and devastating. He severs Anakin's remaining limbs in a single motion, leaving him sprawled on a volcanic slope, screaming as his body ignites. The image of Anakin burning while Obi-Wan watches, unable to finish the job but equally unable to save him, is one of the saga's most emotionally brutal moments. Sidious retrieves the limbless wreck and rebuilds him with cybernetics intentionally designed to keep Vader dependent and deepen his connection to suffering. The suit isn't just life support, it's a prison. Every breath Vader takes is a reminder of his failure and his subservience to Sidious. The Emperor doesn't give him the best possible prosthetics. He gives him the ones that hurt. Obi-Wan's failure to kill Anakin ensures the Emperor will have a terrifying enforcer, while Obi-Wan retreats to Tatooine carrying guilt that shapes his later mentorship of Luke. This duel is the turning point. The Republic becomes the Empire, Anakin becomes Vader, and the Jedi are reduced to scattered survivors. But it also plants the seeds of redemption. At least Mustafar gave Vader a body to work with, unlike what's waiting for Luke when he discovers the full extent of what his father has become. Luke Skywalker vs. Darth Vader, Death Star 2. The Death Star 2 duel in 4 ABY is orchestrated by Palpatine as a trap. Luke will either kill Vader in hatred and take his place, or die as a threat is removed. Either way, the Emperor wins. But Luke refuses to play that game. He initially resists combat entirely, hiding his saber, declaring, "I am a Jedi, like my father before me." He's not trying to win a duel, he's trying to save his dad. But Vader knows exactly how to break him. The moment Vader threatens Leia, probing Luke's feelings and realizing he has a twin sister, Luke snaps. He erupts in a furious barrage that overwhelms Vader completely, battering him back into the shadows, slashing wildly until he severs Vader's right hand. Standing over his defeated father, saber raised, Luke has won. He could end this. He has every reason to end this. And then he looks at his own mechanical hand, then at Vader's severed cybernetic limb sparking on the floor, and he recognizes the horror of what he is becoming. Luke makes the single most important decision in the entire saga. He throws down his saber, he turns to the Emperor and says, "I'll never turn to the dark side. You've failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. This is non-violent resistance. Luke has the power to kill. He chooses mercy instead." And Palpatine, furious at being defied, attacks Luke with lightning, cackling as he tortures him. Luke writhes on the floor, crying out for help. And Vader, moved by his son's cries, finally breaks. After decades of servitude, Anakin Skywalker turns on Sidious. He grabs the Emperor, lifts him overhead despite the lightning tearing through his own systems, and hurls him down the reactor shaft. The act destroys Vader's life support. He dies saving Luke, fulfilling the Chosen One prophecy through redemption, not raw power. Luke's victory redefines what it means to be a Jedi. He wins by integrating attachment and compassion, proving love need not lead to the dark side. He refuses to kill his father despite having every tactical and galactic reason to do so, and that refusal, that steadfast belief in buried goodness, breaks through decades of Sith armor and reshapes galactic destiny. Power and mercy fuse, the Emperor falls, the prophecy is fulfilled. But if you think that's the last time a Force wielder has to choose between power and principle, you're about to meet two very different people fighting 8 very angry guards in red. Rey and Kylo versus Praetorian guards. Snoke has Rey exactly where he wants her. Bound, humiliated, watching him torture her mind. He orders Kylo to kill her and complete his Sith transformation. But Kylo does something nobody sees coming. He rotates the lightsaber on Snoke's armrest, ignites it remotely with the Force, and slices his master in half. Just like that, the most powerful dark side user in the galaxy is gone. And 8 elite Praetorian guards are out for blood. These aren't stormtroopers. They're hand-to-hand specialists armed with exotic melee weapons designed to counter lightsabers, Electro Bacento polearms, Vibro Arbier blades, Bellari Electro chain whips. Every weapon can block a saber strike, and they fight in coordinated pairs to isolate and overwhelm Force users. They have literally one job, and they failed, which is, not ideal. Rey and Kylo fight back-to-back. Kylo uses raw power, grabbing a guard's weapon mid-strike to finish another. Rey falls back on quarterstaff instincts, using wide sweeps and improvised weapon grabs to stay alive. At one point, she drops her saber, grabs a guard's blade, and uses it against him. It's a stunning demonstration of how two Force users with completely different styles can synchronize when survival is on the line. Then it's over. 8 bodies, no survivors. Kylo Kylo extends his hand. Let the past die. Kill the Jedi, kill the Sith, kill everything. Just the two of them ruling the galaxy in a nihilistic reset where nothing matters except raw power. Rey refuses. She chooses hope, and their alliance shatters. Unlike Luke and Vader's reconciliation, this team-up ends in ideological rupture. Kylo killed Snoke not to save Rey, but to eliminate the one person standing between him and absolute control. Rey sees this, rejects it, and escapes with the broken Skywalker saber. This fight proves three things. Dark side lineages persist, and Kylo steps right into the vacuum. Force dyads can manifest in devastating combat even when the participants disagree, and chosen identity triumphs over blood destiny. Rey was born from Palpatine's darkness but chooses the light. Kylo was born from Han and Leia's light but chooses power. Their paths diverge here, and the galaxy will burn because of it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.